alayhi wa sallam, following his sunnah and was remaining obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, inshallah, the reason that, alhamdulillah, the reason we are gathered here is to listen to the reminder, the lecture by our esteemed guest, Shaykh Sulaiman Moola. I've been informed to just delay it by two minutes or so. The Shaykh is here. He's just gone to refresh his wudu, and then inshallah he'll be here to deliver the reminder. So, coming back to Mawlana Tahir, as I said earlier on, I did put him on the spot, and I gave him reassurance that inshallah we won't have the nasheed, but I'm happy to fall back on you. Inshallah, Mawlana Tahir, he beautifully recited the qira'ah, who led Salatul Isha. Inshallah, will be now rendering a short nasheed for all of us here.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's one of the downsides of sitting as a front. Durood Sharif लीजिए. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. مصطفى مصطفى منبع للصفا سيد الأنبياء مشعل في الوفا كان في عطفه لليتامى دفاعا قلبي له فاض شوقا إليه ليس أرجو سوى شربة من يدي الصلاة عليه والسلام عليه للسماء ارتقى وأتى بالنقى وغدا وجهه نيرا مشرقا كان من عفوه حين حان اللقاء قال فلتذهبوا أنتم طلقا حق دلدار کو شاد ابرار کو میرے سرکار کو سب کے غم خار کو میرے سرکار کو سب کے غم خار کو السلام 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 ان کے رخسار پر زلف خمدار پر ان کی آنکھوں میں سرمے کی مقدار پر ان کے قدموں پہ اور دھیمی رفتار پر ان کے الفاظ کی پیاری مہکار پر ان کے اخلاق پر اعلی کردار پر ان پہ لکھے گئے سارے اشعار پر ایسے اوصاف و عظمت کے مینار پر روز جاؤں میں قربان سرکار پر ان پہ پڑھتا رہوں میں درود و سلام ان پہ پڑھتا رہوں میں درود و سلام السلام 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 माँ की ममताओं को जन्नती पाओ को प्यार की चाओं को उम्मती माओं को इश्क के फख्रे को इल्म के कसरे को पे करे सब्रे को बिनते बू बकरे को नाज बरदार को उनके गम खार को चार के चार को यानी हर यार को उनके दिलदार को आशिक़े ज़ार को जानवे यार को गार को अदल की आब को जोश की ताब को गोहरे नायाब को इब्न खत्ताब को माल को जान को दस्ते फैज़ान को इब्न अफ़्फ़ान को हज़रत उस्मान को तेज़ तलवार को फ़त्ह बरदार को अज़्म कर्रार को उनके गरबार को फ़िक्र एहसास को उनके अल्मास को इल्म की बाज़ को एकदम साज को हबशी अंदाज को अजल आवाज को एक सो खंदान को एक सना खान को नात की शान को यानी हसान को अस्सलाम अस्सलाम السلام 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 السلام
Jazakallah khairan for that beautiful nasheed. You were definitely prepared for that one. Jazakallah khairan anyway. Now, the moment we've been waiting for, without further ado, our esteemed guest of honor, Shaykh Sulaiman Moola from South Africa. I humbly request Shaykh, inshallah, if you could please enlighten us with his words.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله العليم الخبير المتقن نظام العالم بلا معين ونصير فسبحان الله الذي حكمته بالغة وعلمه غزير ونعمه واصلة إلى كل صغير وكبير ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له في نقير ولا قطمير ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله الذي هدانا بكتاب منير ودعانا إلى الله بالإنذار والتبشير صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ما دامت الكواكب تسير. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واتقوا فتنة التي لا تصيبن يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم واعلموا أن الله يحول بين المرء وقلبه وأنه إليه تحشرون. وقال النبي صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم: العبادة في الهرج كهجرة إلي، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Honorable scholars, respected brothers, friends and elders, mothers and sisters, the Arabic poet said, إن لله عبادا فطنا طلقوا الدنيا وخافوا الفتنا نظروا فيها فلما علموا أنها ليست لحي وطنا جعلوها لجة واتخذوا صالح الأعمال فيها سفنا. There are some servants of Allah that are exceptionally intelligent. There are some servants of Allah that are exceptionally intelligent. They realize that this world is like a deep ocean. So they did not immerse themselves into this, but rather they created vessels through which they can sail in this deep ocean. What were the vessels through which they would commute the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? نظروا فيها فلما علموا أنها ليست لحي وطنا جعلوها لجة واتخذوا صالح الأعمال فيها سفنا. Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam told his son, "Oh my son, I have seen this world to be so deep and the waters to be so rough that I've seen many vessels sink and many sailors drown. فَإِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ فَاجْعَلْ سَفِينَتَكَ تَقْوَى اللَّهِ." If you can help it, the only way to survive in these turbulent waters is that you make the obedience of Allah your vessel. لَعَلَّكَ أَن تَنْجُو وَلَا أَرَاكَ نَاجِيًا. Hopefully you make it, but I doubt you will sail across, O my son. Hudhayfa bin Yaman radiyallahu anhu said, يَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ زَمَانٌ, a time will come, لَا يَنْجُو أَحَدٍ إِلَّا مَنْ يَدْعُو كَدُعَاءِ الْغَرِيقِ. None will be rescued from the turbulence of that time, but the one who supplicates Allah like a drowning person. As a parent raising children in this century, it would take a lot of prayer from you. I constantly say, when you with your children, speak to them about Allah. When your children are not with you, speak to Allah about your children. When you with your children, speak to them about Allah. Islam impresses upon us khashiyyan. ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَشِيَ رَبَّهُ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ وَيَخَافُونَ سُوءَ الْحِسَابِ. The linguist, the grammarian, the philologist, the authority on Arabic will tell us the distinction between khashiyat and khawf is, khashiyat is fear motivated by love. Impress upon your child to fear Allah out of the love for Allah. And this is fundamental. In a world where atheism is presented in such an appealing way. I know of a person who was an atheist and then he took the Shahada. So I asked him, what attracted you to Islam? He said, the most dull and the most depressing moment in my life as an atheist was whenever I had a moment of happiness, bliss, euphoria and excitement, I had nobody to praise and thank. And that was the most depressing moment in my life. So when I would enjoy something, and I would relish something, and I would cherish something, there was nobody to acknowledge, because according to me, I was the architect of my life. We don't appreciate that. when you are enjoying a meal, when you are enjoying any bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how the body just naturally calls out to the Supreme Being. لا ينجو أحد إلا من يدعو كدعاء الغريق. None will be rescued from the turbulence of that time but the one who calls out to Allah like a drowning person. If a person is drowning, you don't casually wave your hand, listen, if there's any lifesaver and you're not too busy and you have some time, I think, you know what, I need some help. You yelling, you screaming at optimum to the greatest possible level, that you're frantic, you're desperate. Huzaifa bin Yaman radiyallahu anhu said, a time will come, none will be rescued from the fitnas of that time, إِلَّا مَن يَدْعُوكَ دُعَاءِ الْغَرِيقِ, but the one who cries to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so desperately. In Fathul Bari, I read the ash'ar and the abiyat of Imra'ul Qais, who was a great Arabic poet. And Ibn Uyayna rahimahullah says, on the strength of Khalaf bin Hoshab, that we used to often read these abiyat and these stanzas and this poetry at the time of fitna. Al-harbu awwalu ma takunu futayya tas'a bizinatiha likulli jahuli hatta idha ishta'alat wa shabba dhiramuha wallat ajuzan ghayra dhati halili shamta'a yunkaru lawnuha wa taghayyarat makruhatan lish-shammi wat-taqbili. Al-harbu awwalu ma takunu futayya. Some have read it futayya and some have read it differently as well. It's mentioned in Fathul Bari, exactly I read it there. That at the time of fitna, we used to read these ash'ar and abiyat, poems and stanzas of Imra'ul Qais. That fitna is like battle. When it just starts, it sounds striking, appealing, stimulating, intriguing, riveting. And what's it? Discover, explore, expound, adventure, new, something, apply. Al-harbu awwalu ma takunu futayya, young, attractive, seductive, appealing. Hatta idha ishta'alat. But as the fitna intensifies and it gets strong and it drags you in and it pulls you in, then suddenly that whole charm, charisma, attraction, seduction, appealing face just withers away. Shamta becomes old, aged, frail, weak. Makruhatan lishammi wat-taqbili. In the initial phase, it presents like a beautiful young girl, and towards the tail end, it is nothing but misery, and you want to wash your hands away from it. The ulama have written that the different fitnas that will grip the ummah, we all talk about fitna, and we know that we're living in a time where it is so rife and rampant, common and prevalent. There are different stages, phases of fitnas that will grip people on different levels. The first fitna that would hit the ummah, fitnatul rajuli fi nafsihi bi an yaqsuwa qalbuhu فلا يجد حلاوة الطاعة ولا لذة المناجاة. The first fitna that would happen towards the end of time, which we find ourselves in. Yesterday I was quoting to some of the scholars, there's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ during the period of Hajjaj. Of course, there was so much murder that was taking place. So people close complained to Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu. Shakawna, the hadith is in Bukhari. Shakawna ila Anas ibn Malik ma nalqa min al-Hajjaj. That we complained to Anas radiyallahu anhu of the tyranny that was being meted out at the hands of Hajjaj. So he said, Isbiru. When Sa'id ibn Jubayr was summoned by Hajjaj, then Hajjaj said to him, Ikhtar li nafsika ayya qitlatin shi'ta. Sa'id, decide how you want I must execute you. So Sa'id ibn Jubair said, no. بل اختر أنت لنفسك فوالله ما تقتلني قتلة إلا قتلك الله مثلها في الآخرة. I'm not going to decide how you must execute me. You decide how you want Allah must punish you. I'm not going to decide how you must execute me. You decide how you want Allah must punish you. It's a long dialogue. He asks him, أي خلفاء بني أمية أعجب لك? From all the rulers in Banu Umayyah, which one impresses you the most? So he said, أرضاهم لخالقهم. The one who pleases Allah the most. Fir'aun tried to provoke and stir his ministers around anti-Musa alayhi salam. So he said, قال فما بال القرون الأولى قال فما بال القرون الأولى. So Moses, what's your opinion of the nations that preceded us? قال علمها عند الذي. The knowledge of that is by Allah. لا يضل ولا ينسى. Who doesn't forget or make a mistake. So Hajjaj then asked Sa'id ibn Jubayr, ما تقول فيا? What's your opinion about me? He said, أنت أعلم بنفسك. You know yourself better. He said, بل أريد علمك أنت. I want to know your opinion specifically, precisely about me. We live in a world where people are so desperate for recognition. You know the man's praise in your favor is not genuine. It's fake. It's superficial. And yet you feel thrilled by the superficial praise. You know this man is not honestly respecting you. He's just to cover himself. He says few kind words. He flatters you. And he, confers those praises and extols that about you. And yet you feel great about that. It massages your ego, but you know in his heart he doesn't believe that. That's the desperation people have of fame. When Farazdak was walking, the famous incident, Zainul Abidin, rahimahullah, and with him was his entourage and his cavalcade and all his, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, the Hisham bin Abdul Malik, the king was moving and all his people were with him. And of course on the other side was Zainul Abidin. And what a presence of people, what an ocean of people. So Hisham felt threatened that look at the people around him. So he said, who's this person? Who's this? I don't know him. So Farazdak, who was the poet, he said, إن كنت لا تعرفه فالحل يعرفه والحرم هذا الذي تعرف البطحاء وطأته والبيت يعرفه والحل والحرم هذا ابن خير عباد الله كلهم هذا التقي النقي الطاهر العلم إن كنت جاهله بجده أنبياء الله قد ختموا فليس قولك من هذا بظائره العرب تعرف من أنكرت والعجم كلتا يديه غياث عم نفعهما. It's a very long poem and it's very amazing. Oh Hisham, by saying you don't know him, you will not drop his honor. You trying to get to the Kaaba to feel honored. The Kaaba feels honored with his presence. Because of course he's the descendant of Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam. So one of the first fitnas that will hit a person, فتنة الرجل في نفسه بأن يقسو قلبه فلا يجد حلاوة الطاعة ولا لذة المناجاة. لا إله إلا الله. A person will go through the rituals of worship, but he will be devoid and deprived of spiritual happiness and ecstasy. So there will be no thrill, pleasure, joy. It will just be the motions, just going through the rituals. And I'm afraid this has plagued the better amongst us, leave the irreligious. Amir bin Abdullah Tamimi, he was the student of Abu Musa Ash'ari. He was a great tabi'i. One of the people of Basra said, I had heard a lot about him, so one day on journey I said, I want to spend some time with him. So anyway, I accompanied him. When we got to the place where we halted, I observed the discipline in the life of this man. Study the greats of all time, discipline was a common denominator. No person, material or religious, academic or Islamic, became great without discipline. How many youth meet me and say, just give me a quick advice? I say, sleep early. Sleep early, go sleep. Sleep early, rise early. I quote this often in my talks. Every morning a lion gets up in Africa and it knows it must run faster than the fastest gazelle, or else it will starve to death. And every morning a gazelle gets up in Africa and it knows it must outrun the lion or else it will be killed. It doesn't make a difference whether you're a lion or a gazelle. When the sun rises, you better be running. Sleep early, rise early. Allahumma barik li ummati fi bukuriha. Sleeping late has paralyzed the youth, has destroyed the youth. One of the problems that were found amongst the disbelievers, Allah highlights three amongst others. One was Samiran. Samiran literally refers to a moonlit night. Mustakbirina bihi. They were proud about it. Bihi is a pronoun. In basic Arabic, the pronoun needs to be preceded by the proper noun. So in the context of this ayah, there is no mention. But the reference here is to the haram, because the association of the Arabs to the haram was so accepted that without its explicit mention, it was automatically understood. They were proud on their association to the Kaaba. If you are serving in this masjid or any other masjid, don't let pride get to your head, my brother. Pride will destroy me and you. Those who possess strength, and then they were proud on their strength, Allah destroyed them. Imagine if you're proud on your assumed strength. You don't have strength and you think you're strong. So Ad was strong by the definition of Allah. Allah said they were so strong that I didn't create people so strong. لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد. But when they said من أشد منا قوة, Allah said أولم يروا أن الله الذي خلقهم هو أشد منهم قوة. Why are you so arrogant that you think you're strong? Don't you know that Allah who created you is more strong? الله الذي خلقكم من ضعف ثم جعل من بعد ضعف قوة ثم جعل من بعد قوة ضعفا وشيبا. I created you with weakness, then I gave you strength, then I'll give you weakness, and then will be old age. In old age, nature will start claiming back all your faculties in installments. Wallahu khalaqakum. Allah created you. Thumma yatawaffakum. Ultimately, He will give you death. وَمِنْكُمْ تَبْعِيدٌ. Some from amongst you, مَنْ يُرَدُّ, will be returned. The word return is suggestive of the fact that you came from there. You don't use the word yuraddu if you were not there before. If you're going to a country first time, I'm getting married again, not me. Those things here, nowadays everybody is recorded here. For my wife in South Africa, no, my love, I'm not, my angel, I love you. Yeah, because things are just taken out, clips are circulated and everything. I am giving an analogy, I'm giving an example. Yeah. If you're getting married the first time, you don't say, I'm getting married again. Appreciate the Quran. وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرَدُّ. Some amongst you are returned towards أَرْذَلِ الْعُمُرِ, the worst age. Why? Modern science calls it dementia, Alzheimer's. لِكَيْ لَا يَعْلَمَ بَعْدَ عِلْمٍ شَيْئًا. I take you back to a point of your life so that you know nothing after having learned everything. Now, إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ قَدِيرٌ. The scholars say it's the basic principle of tafsir the translation of the attributes of Allah remain the same. However, the connotations differ according to the context. So the translation is the translation, but what is implied in the current context is analyzed in relation to the verses under discussion. Inna Allah alimun qadir. Allah has all knowledge and all power. So Allah has the power to seize the faculties of a young man despite his youth. This is mentioned in Ma'arif al-Quran. And Allah is Qadir. He has the power that He can restore the faculties of an old man despite his old age. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. We created you in the best form, but we can reduce you to the lowest of the low. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. But those who bring iman and do righteous deeds. Ikrama's call is mentioned there. أي إِلَّا الَّذِينَ قَرَأُوا الْقُرْآنِ. Those who devote their lives to Quran, Allah will preserve their faculties, their organs, their functionality even in the latter part of their life. May Allah make us from amongst them. So he says, we went out, it was nightfall, and I was mentioning those three things of the kuffar of Makkah. Mustakbirin, pride on their association with the custodians, with the caretakers. We offer water to the pilgrims, we serve the pilgrims, and because of that, pride had set into them. Mustakbirin bihi. The second evil, samiran. So it was customary amongst the Arabs on a bright moonlit night, you sit, you chill. In English they say, the worst thing you can do is be idle. And it gets even worse when you have plenty of time to do nothing. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu said, إِنِّي لَأُبْغِضُ الرَّجُلَ فَارِغًا لَا فِي عَمَلِ الدُّنْيَا وَلَا فِي عَمَلِ الْآخِرَةِ. I despise the fact when a person is not constructive, productive, objective, meaningful and focused, neither engaging in something constructive about this world nor about akhirah. Hazar kaam hai daag dunya mein karne ke, jo log kuch nahi karte hai, kamal karte hai. हजार काम है दाग दुनिया में करने के, जो लोग कुछ नहीं करते हैं कमाल करते हैं. There's 1,000 things that needs to be done. The day is too short, and then people are like, no, I'm chilling. What an irony, what an irony. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu said, ما ندمت على شيء ندمي على يوم. I do not regret anything as much as I regret the sun rising and then the sun setting, knowing that a day in my life has gone and my good has not increased. I normally say to people, if only this much can happen, that your evil doesn't increase, that itself is somewhat good. So that was the second practice amongst the Arabs. It's a bright moonlit night. They would sit, they would chat, they would gossip, and time would just go. And of course, if you sit and you talk, then there will be gossip in it, there will be obscene language in it, there will be backbiting in it, and that night can just go on, and the amount of sin that you just accumulate. How often we say things. In Jami' al-Ulum wal-Hikam, Ibn Rajab Hanbali has made mention of this call. I read it there under the sharh of one of the ahadith of Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, that one person, he slipped and he fell off his conveyance. So he said, Ta'is al-Himar. Woe be to this mule. Sometimes you say you're trying to on your phone and get network and you say the silly phone or silly network or this foolish car, or you say, these type of things. Actually, I have a thought now. In Sahih Muslim, the word ahmaq comes in one hadith. I don't want to go into the details. So there, the Ahlul Lugha, they asked the question, what's the definition? Ahmaq means fool, commonly translated. What does fool mean, or who's a fool? Somebody tell you, hey, you're a fool, man. What you say? Go look in the mirror. That's what we would tell people. Somebody tell you something nasty, you say, go look in the mirror and you'll see one. And the Quran teaches us what's the response of a Nabi. A Nabi was also told that he is a fool, wal-iyadhu billah. And of course the Nabi is the purest of Allah's creation. A Nabi, in English they say, regardless of what people tell you, you are responsible for the manner in which you reply. You can be better or better. Regardless of what people tell you, you cannot say you excused because of how he provoked you. You are responsible for the manner in which you retort. So when the Nabi was told that he is a fool, what did the Nabi say? It's in the Quran. Ya qawmi laysa bi dalala, Ya qawmi laysa bi safaha, walakinni rasulun min rabbil alameen. Oh my people, I'm not a fool. I'm a messenger from Allah. It's very easy for me to say it now, but at the time when someone provokes you, in the heat of that moment, to restrain your tongue is the most difficult thing, my brother. In an argument with your spouse, where things get ugly and heated, and sometimes unfortunately you lose your composure and nasty things are said, how many of us can maintain our composure and our balance at that time? Today the focus before marriage is what? To straighten the jaws and not the teeth, not the speech. A straight jaw with orthodontics will get you married, but a straight speech will keep you married. Straight jaw won't keep you married. It will get you married. Oh wow, he looks stunning. He looks gorgeous, he looks amazing, great. But for that marriage to remain on track, your speech needs to be straight. One of the verses that we recite in the khutbah of nikah is what? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. O you who believe, fear Allah. And this is the beauty of the Quran. Wherever Allah impresses upon you an injunction, Allah gives you a plan of action. So if you tell someone, fear Allah. Okay, well, fearing Allah, where do I start? Allah is telling you where to start. Learn to speak properly. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah. Oh, you who believe, fear Allah. Okay, Allah, where do I start? Start measuring your investments in akhirah compared to your investments in this world. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدْ. Where do I start? Help the world. Okay, how do I start helping the world? You can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. Okay, now there's a plan of action. Exactly. Make a point, make a start. Those who spend today regretting yesterday will spend tomorrow regretting today. If you don't action the plan, it's like, oh man, sure, I wish I did better with my life. Listen, if you start now, then at least tomorrow you won't have to have this discussion. So the Arabs used to sit at night and chit-chat, and Allah condemned that because, and the Prophet ﷺ said, La samara ba'da al-isha. Wow. Don't have these unnecessary discussions after Isha. Just look at the principles of deen, the richness. What a structured society, what a dignified society, what an upright society. The makeup, the fabric of that makeup of a Muslim community that retire early to bed. Because this person will be productive early in the morning. And what can be achieved and accomplished in the early part of the morning cannot be accomplished at any other part of the day. That's irrefutable. The blessings are so much in it. The early morning has a breeze. The early morning breeze has a secret to tell you. Be sure to rise early to hear it. The early morning breeze has a secret to tell you. Ask the joggers, ask the walkers, ask those that achieve. It's the early morning breeze. And the third thing that they would do was tahjurun. Hajura means to blurt. And inevitably, when you're just going to have these prolonged discussions, you're going to slip, you're going to err, you're going to utter things which would be out of line. Sometimes you intend saying something in jest, but it's derogatory, it's insensitive, it's condescending, you're hurting someone's feelings. And of course, it has a nasty reaction. Anyway, we were saying the first fitna is that a person would be deprived of sweetness in ibadah. My brother, may Allah give me sweetness, may Allah give you sweetness. तेरे माथे पे है अगर सजदे का निशानी तो क्या हुआ, कोई ऐसा सजदा कर जो छोड़ जाए ज़मीन पे निशान। तेरे माथे पे है अगर सजदे की निशानी तो क्या हुआ, कोई ऐसा सजदा कर जो छोड़ जाए ज़मीन पे निशान। You know, when you drop your head and you rivet it to the ground, बिस्तर से उठकर मस्जिद तक न जा सके इकबाल, ख्वाहिश रखते हैं कब्र से उठकर जन्नत में जाने की। बिस्तर से उठकर मस्जिद तक न जा सके इकबाल, he couldn't get up from his bed and go to the local masjid. He fantasizes getting up from his grave and walking to Jannah. Someone said to Imam Shafi'i that please pray for me, I want to walk with you in Jannah. So Imam Shafi'i said, Abitu sahran ad-duja وَتَبِيتُهُ نَوْمًا وَتَبْغِي بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ لِحَاقِي. But I don't sleep whole night. You snore whole night. And then you say, Shafi'i, pray, we must go together in Jannah. وَأَبِيتُ سَهْرَانَ الدُّجَى وَتَبِيتُهُ نَوْمًا وَتَبْغِي بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ لِحَاقِي. Like I'm up, conversing, communicating, learning, imparting, disseminating. Imam Abu Hanifa said, I had 3 experiences with 3 different women. Imra'atun khada'atni, imra'atun faqahatni, imra'atun zahadatni. One woman deceived me. There was something lying on the floor, some item, some article, which in Arabic terminology we refer to as luqta, and if it is a human, you call him laqit. And look at the beauty of the Quran. For scholars that are here, a thought comes to my mind, which I read in the tafsir, that when Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam was dropped in the well, what did the brothers say? يَلْتَقِطُهُ بَعْدُ السَّيَّارَةِ إِن كُنْتُمْ فَاعِلِينَ. Some travelers might just pick him up. The adoption of the expression يَلْتَقِطْهُ confirms the argument that Yusuf was a minor. It's academic, brother, if you might wonder what is this guy really saying, but it's academic. Yeah, it's academic, but the point came in my mind, so it was irresistible, so yeah, allow me to share it. Thank you. So a woman pointed to me and she said, you know what? She just pointed to an item that was on the floor. فَتَوَهَّمْتُ أَنَّهَا خَرْصَى. So I thought she's mute. She has speech impairment. So I picked it up. When I picked it up, she said, now you're responsible to return it to the owner. So he said, Imra'atun khada'atni. I was deceived. Imra'atun faqahatni. One woman taught me fiqh. She asked me a ruling and I didn't know it. So it compelled me to study again, and because of her, I'm indebted to her. It made me learn more about Islamic jurisprudence. And one woman increased me in piety. I was walking and she said, هذا الذي يصلي الفجر بوضوء العشاء. This is the man who offers his Fajr prayer with the ablution of Isha. And that was not my practice. But I said to myself, if this is the good thought people have about me, maybe it's time I adopt the practice. Unfortunately, when people confer praises upon us that's not deserving, we're comfortable to embrace the praise, but it doesn't stimulate action. If somebody says something kind about us, we're quick to latch onto that praise. We welcome that because obviously it gives us a thrill, it gives us excitement, but we don't use that as a catalyst to propel us or to stimulate us. Anyway, he says, I was traveling with Amir bin Abdullah Tamimi, and we got to this place. It was night time. رَبَطَ عَامِرٌ فَرَسَهُ. I seen he tied his horse. طَوَّلَ لَهُ زِمَامَهُ. He extended the leash so that the animal could roam freely. One is you exert yourself in worship and you exploit those that are in your employment. It defeats the essence. Bilal ibn Abi Buraidah, he was sitting with Muhammad bin Wasi'. Muhammad bin Wasi' was a tabi'i. Muhammad bin Wasi' was a legend. He was a stalwart. He was a sage of the age. Someone said, لِلْأُمَرَاءِ قُرَّاء وَلِلْأَغْنِيَاءِ قُرَّاء وَإِنَّ مُحَمَّدْ لَمِنْ قُرَّاءِ الرَّحْمَنِ. You get some local reciters, some national reciters, and then you get the likes of Muhammad bin Wasi', whose recitation is for Allah. Haritha bin Nu'man. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Haritha, every time you read in Quran, the malaika are listening to it in the heavens. كذلك البر وكان أبر الناس بأمه. كذلك البر وكان أبر الناس بأمه. Because he was dutiful to his mom, Allah privileged him that his recitation on earth was amplified in the heavens. That is what you call likes and re-likes and tweets and retweets. That your recitation is amplified in the heavens. That's it. Not your voice known to anyone else. When Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salatu was, Sayyidina Yunus alayhi salam was swallowed by the fish, and he was deep down in the ocean in layers of darkness, as the Quran says, فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَلَّا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين. And he called out to us in layers of darkness. Ibn Rajab Hanbali's call I read, when he called out and he said, oh Allah, help me. So Allah asked the malaika, do you know whose voice is this? Do you know who's calling me? So the angel said, صوت معروف من بلاد غريبة. We know this voice, but we don't know the location. So Allah said, this is my servant Yunus. So they said, yeah, we're very familiar with the servant Yunus alayhi salam, but the place from where this voice is coming, we're not familiar with that location. So the malaika then made an appeal, oh Allah, accept our intercession on behalf of your servant Yunus and grant him deliverance. When you're in a crisis and you call, is your name known to your cronies, friends, or is your name recognized to the malaika? تعرف إلى الله في الرخاء يعرفك في الشدة. Turn to Allah in prosperity and He will respond to you in adversity. आसानी में अल्लाह को याद रखना आसान है, असल मुश्किल है मुश्किल में अल्लाह को याद रखना. Who can remember Allah at that time? Or rather the other way, to remember Allah in difficulty is easy, but to remember Allah in ease. تعرف إلى الله في الرخاء يعرفك في الشدة. So Sulaiman, Bilal ibn Abi Buraidah is sitting and Muhammad bin Wasi' is there. It's a long discussion, but in the end he asks him two questions. Bilal bin Abi Buraidah asked Muhammad bin Wasi' two questions. ما تقول في القدر? What is your opinion about destiny, taqdeer? Are the angels recording what we're doing, or are we doing what the angels have pre-recorded? In a nutshell, the ulama say, qadr is the ilm of Allah and not the amr of Allah. Amr ilahi ka hukam nahi hai, amr ilahi ka naam nahi hai, ilm ilahi ka naam. The knowledge of Allah. Allah knows this was going to happen. So Muhammad bin Wasi' replied, جيرانك من أهل القبور ففكر فيهم فإن فيهم لشغلا. Listen, people around you are dying. Preoccupy yourself with preparation for your death, then trying to unpack the mysteries of destiny. That's very intricate, delicate, you won't able to comprehend. People around you are dying, process that, process that. He said, okay, ud'u li, make dua for me. Another common one. So we say, okay, no problem, I'll make dua for you. And sometimes we just casually make dua. But do you know, and again I have a thought, it's in Ruh al-Ma'ani and it's in Surah Hud. I have a court case tomorrow, make dua. May Allah give you victory. May Allah give you victory. And what if he's the oppressor? Just because he's your friend, you make the dua? Let me give you the reference. Academic scholars will appreciate it. So Nuh alayhi salam seen his son drown. And I cannot, for the sake of me, begin to imagine the pain on the heart of Nuh alayhi salam. Because he was the father, and he's the Nabi, and it's his son. I cannot imagine the intensity of that test. I simply cannot. يا بني اركب معنا ولا تكن مع الكافرين يا بني اركب معنا ولا تكن مع الكافرين. Oh my son, stop your arrogance. Oh my son, stop your haughtiness. Oh my boy, stop your shenanigans. Come, listen to me. No, Dad, I'm smart. I'm one above. I'm wise. I'm circumspect. I'm calculated. I'm methodical. I dot my I's. I cross my T's. I know what to do. Sa'awi ila jabal ya'simuni min al-ma. I'll take shelter on the zenith of the mountain. It will rescue me. The father tells the son, mount onto the ark. Hada wahyun. This is revelation. The boy says, I'll take shelter on the ark, or on the zenith of the mountain. Hada aqlun. This is logic. Logic challenging wahi. وَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجِ. And then comes a wave. فَكَانَ مِنَ الْمُغْرَقِينَ. And imagine the father having to see his son drown in front of him. La ilaha illallah. فَمَنْ قَدَّمَ عَقْلَهُ عَلَى الْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ غَرَقَ فِي بُحُورِ الْأَهْوَاءِ وَالْبِدَعِ. If you want your logic to surpass Quran and Sunnah, then I'm afraid you will drop and drown and no lifesaver can rescue you. Every command of Allah is logical. Some are beyond my grasp of logic, but they're not illogical. Did you hear what I said, my brother? Every command of Allah is logical. Some are beyond my threshold of logic. It's not illogical. If what I cannot comprehend equates being illogical, then with that flawed definition, practically every father is illogical because his child cannot reason with his logic. My son, it's not illogical, it's above your logic. Dad, I want to get married. How much does it cost? I don't know. I'm still paying. Dad, I want to get married. How much does it cost? Before marriage, I was yearning for your mother. After marriage, the why became silent. Come man, you can laugh, little brother. So Nuh alayhi salam made dua. Inna bani min ahli wa inna wa'daka al-haqq wa anta ahkamul hakimin. Oh my Lord, my son is from my household and your promise is absolute and you are the best of all judges. And Allah said, Ya Nuh, innahu laysa min ahlik. Oh no, he is not from your family. إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ. His actions are not noble. His actions are not righteous. فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. So do not ask me regarding something you do not know. In Ruh al-Ma'ani, Allama Alusi Baghdadi writes under this ayah, فَيَكُونُ النَّهْيُ وَارِدًا فِي مُشْتَبَهَ الْحَالِ وَيُفْهَمُ مِنْهُ حَالُ مَعْلُومِ الْفَسَادِ بِالدَّرَجَةِ الْأُولَى وَبِهِ عُلِمَ حَالُ أَدْعِيَةِ مَشَائِخِ زَمَانِنَا يدعون بكل ما يطلب منهم من الخصومات والمناصب حلالا كان أو غير ذلك. فلا تسألني ما ليس لك به علم. Don't ask me regarding something you don't know. So the ayah releases a hint. فيكون النهي واردا في مشتبه الحال. When something is vague, unclear, ambiguous, then it won't be correct for you to make dua because you could be supporting the guilty party. One is you make a generic dua, may Allah make it easy for you in your marriage. But there is a crisis going on, the matter has gone to court, and you make dua, may Allah give you victory over her or give her victory over you. But you know not who's the victim and who's the victor. فَيَكُونُ النَّهْيُ وَارِدًا فِي مُشْتَبَهَ الْحَالِ. Something that is unclear, it's mamnu for you because you don't know. And from that, وَيُفْهَمُ مِنْهُ, we derive from that that which is absolutely incorrect, all the more will be forbidden. And sadly, وَبِهِ عُلِمَ, we learn from this حَالُ أَدْعِيَةِ مَشَائِخِ زَمَانِنَا. So many times people just say, oh, pray for him, oh, may Allah make it easy, may Allah grant you goodness, oh, I'm praying for you. But who? He could be guilty. So, Bilal bin Abi Buraida said to Muhammad bin Wasi', pray for me. So Muhammad bin Wasi' rahmatullah alayhi said, وَمَا تَصْنَعُ بِدُعَائِي وَعَلَى بَابِكَ كَذَا وَكَذَا كل يقول إنك ظلمتهم يرتفع دعاؤهم قبل دعائي. I can pray for you now, but what will my prayer do to rescue you when there are people in your employment that are victims of your oppression? Their curse will overpower my prayer in your favor. First, undo the curses that they are hurling towards you because you're abusing them. And remember, my brother, you could be abusing your spouse. My sister, you could be abusing your husband. You can make dua and ask people to make dua, but if those around you are victims of your abuse, then their curses are blocking your dua. كيف نرجو إجابة لدعاء قد سددنا طريقها بالذنوب. كيف نرجو إجابة لدعاء قد سددنا طريقها بالذنوب. Oh foolish man, how do you expect your prayer to be answered when you've created so many blockages by your sins? Then he said to him, لا تظلم ولا تحتاج إلى الدعاء. Don't oppress any soul and you won't have to request anyone to make dua for you. Don't oppress any soul and you won't have to request anyone to make dua. We could be oppressing our siblings, we could be oppressing our neighbors, we could be oppressing so many people. The hadith is in Bukhari, right in the beginning. A person said, I seen Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu in Rabda. I don't know how you guys are, I haven't started properly. Are you guys chilled? Are you relaxed? Are you guys good? You tell me when you're tired, then we call it a night. If you're good, I'm good. لقيت أبا ذر بالربذة. I met Abu Dharr in Rabda. It's in Bukhari right in the beginning. وَعَلَيْهِ حُلَّةٌ وَعَلَى غُلَامِهِ حُلَّةٌ. So he was clad and attired in a particular uniform, and so was his servant and slave. So I said to him, like, now what's this, Ya Abu Dharr? I cannot distinguish, master from servant. Both are clad and attired in the same dress. He said, عَيَّرْتُهُ بِأُمِّهِ. I had taunted him about his mother. And in the Asha there, with reference to Kirmani, the ibarat is also mentioned there. I slipped up and I made a statement which had a bit of a racial slur to it. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ya Aba Dharrin, innaka mru'un fika jahiliya. Ya Aba Dharrin, innaka mru'un fika jahiliya. Oh Abu Dharr, am I getting the stench of ignorance? Am I getting the stench of ignorance? And remember, your helper, your servant is your brother. Feed him from the food Allah gave. Clad him from the clothing Allah gave. And don't burden him with work beyond his muscle. So since then, myself and him, we dress in the same clothing. Anyway, coming back to what I was telling you of Amir bin Abdullah Tamimi, and the first point I made was, there are actually 10 fitnas, and we just touching on the first fitna that would happen and grip the heart, is where the sense of sweetness of worship would leave us. Those that had sweetness of worship, they could, just like people can, Allah forbid, they can peruse porn for hours. It's an addiction. It sucks you in. It draws you in. It's a vicious circle. I've dealt with so many youth that are into it. I popped the first pill, they tell you. It gives you an ecstasy, gives you a thrill, gives you a feeling. It gives you the excitement, the adrenaline of intimacy with your spouse times 100. And thereafter, for the rest of your life, you're chasing a dragon, trying to get that same feeling. There's a young man that I've been counseling recently. He says, since I've been taking the drugs, I don't know what has happened. Every time I come in public, I have the urge to undress. I just get this urge to undress. I cannot process it, but this is what the drug has done to me. Recently, I dealt with a case where Allah forbid, this man youngster took drugs, he came home, it presented before me. I lost my balance, I said, I need to leave here. He says, I shudder to tell you, I came home and unfortunately I was intimate with my mother. The narration of Tirmidhi, حتى إن كان منهم من أتى أمه علانية لكان في أمتي من يصنع ذلك. حتى إن كان منهم من أتى أمه علانية, that if a person slept with his mother and perpetrated incest, the same would repeat itself. It's a vicious circle. It's layers of darkness. You need to abandon that life cold turkey. Be it drugs, be it porn, be it any addiction. Allah says, أَوْ كَظُلُمَاتٍ فِي بَحْرٍ لُجِّيٍّ يَغْشَاهُ مَوْجٌ مِّن فَوْقِهِ سَحَابٌ ظُلُمَاتٌ بَعْضُهَا فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ. Nobody can explain it better than Allah. The layers of darkness in the life of a sinner, a transgressor. Allah said, or light. ظلمات, darkness, في بحر لجي, in a deep ocean. أو كظلمات في بحر لجي يغشاه موج من فوقه سحاب. Hypothetically, it's night. It's a deep ocean. It's right at the bottom. There's a wave above you. Above that wave is another wave. And above that there are clouds. It's so dark. It's so dark in his life. إِذَا أَخْرَجَ يَدَهُ لَمْ يَكَدْ يَرَاهَا. If he was to expose his hand, he will barely see it. لَمْ يَكَدْ يَرَاهَا. Allah didn't say لَمْ يَرَاهَا. Allah said لَمْ يَكَدْ يَرَاهَا. Hand is an organ you can bring close to your eye. Unlike your leg, you can move it. There's so much darkness. Allah gives a parable. His life is so blocked up. And why is it like that? وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورٌ فَمَا لَهُ مِن نُورٍ. Allah says, if I don't give you that divine peace and light, you can traverse the planet, you won't find that brightness anywhere. If I don't give you that light, people have looked for it in clubs, in pubs, in alcohol, in music, in concerts, in rave clubs, in indulging, in whatever. Nothing. The soul is restless. The soul is restless. The scholars say the analogy of the soul and the body is like the horseman and the horse. When you hop onto a horse, then the horse examines the confidence of the rider. And the animal will realize if this rider has muscle, clout, skill or not. If you don't have skill and you don't know how to hold the reins and control and trot and gallop this horse, then you are a dummy on the back of this horse and the animal rides you. And that's the reality. You're a dummy. You're not in control. But if you know how to hold that horse, and you hold it with firmness and authority, then this horse is so amazing that Allah devotes one whole chapter to it. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Oath upon oath. In basic Arabic grammar, you have the qasam and you have the jawab al-qasam. Allah swears an oath on the diligence and the devotion and the loyalty of this animal. But that's when you ride in it. Al-khaylu ma'qudun binawasiha al-khayr. The hadith of Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said Allah has attached goodness to the forelocks of the horses. Allah speaks of Sulaiman alayhi salam in Surah Safat. إِذْ عُرِضَ عَلَيْهِ بِالْعَشِيِّ الصَّافِنَاتُ الْجِيَادِ. When horses of fine bred caliber were presented before him. So the condition of the human ego is like the horse. If you show authority, then you dictate to this animal when to eat and where you will ride it. And then it will go and it will gallop and it will trot and it will show you its skill. But if you don't hold it firm, then it will flip you at any time. And that's the nature of the human ego. It will whisper to you. It will provoke you. Why don't you just phone her? Why don't you just try this? Why don't you just experiment? Why don't you just adventure? Just for the feeling, just for the excitement. So when Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam came back from Mount Tur, and then he asked Samiri, but you initiated the worship of the calf. Why you did? I just felt like it. وَكَذَلِكَ سَوَّلَتْ لِي نَفْسِي وَكَذَلِكَ زَيَّنَتْ لِي نَفْسِي. But why did you start this relationship? What was wrong in your mind? Nah, just for a little bit of excitement, yeah? Kind of a bit of a thrill? Wanted to feel a bit different? Well, that's how expensive sin is. That's what it does. Marriage is gone, job is gone, Iman is going. Sin is the most expensive thing. You walk into a shop, you like something. One doctor said an amazing thing. He said, we understand and appreciate things that are expensive on our pocket. You look at this, but then you drop it. Why? It's too expensive for your pocket. He said, we need to apply the same analogy with food that's harmful. If I'm going to eat this, it's expensive on our health. This is tasty, but no, I cannot eat this. This is expensive on my health. When a believer understands this is expensive on my Iman, sitting and killing time and perusing porn and doing this wrong is expensive on my Iman. And whatever drives you to that sin, my young boy, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, I can swear and tell you, after you've committed that offense, temporarily you got a thrill and an excitement. But after that, you are 1,000 times more depressed than what you were before you perpetrated it. That's the reality. The darkness, I tweeted the other day. I said, some side effects are inescapable, like misery for a sinner. Some side effects are inescapable. You simply cannot circumvent it. And one thing is, sin was going to come with the package is misery. Now that depression, there's no way unless you back off from the sin. But you will have to deal with those dull, lonely moments where you cannot look your spouse in her eyes because your guilt is eating you, knowing what you're doing behind your wife's back in terms of infidelity or vice versa. How many marriages today are breaking up because of drug addiction? A day doesn't go in my life, like literally a day doesn't. And you don't know how to look at, just before I left, I say a young boy, 6 years old, hasn't seen his dad, to admit him into a rehab, and is there for months on end. Now what do you keep on telling? Dad is gone for work, dad is gone for holiday, dad is gone here. How long? Understand what you're doing to this innocent child. Are you so selfish that that thrill for that moment, you're ready to wreck your whole life? And the only way to offset it is to up your spirituality. There's peace in that. There's pleasure in it. There's a different excitement in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's so fulfilling. It's so wholesome. The ulama have mentioned something so amazing. Talut, who was this pious ruler, and it was in the time of Dawud alayhi salatu was salam, and he had taken his army and they were going to confront Jalut, who was the tyrant king. So they crossed a river. Many argue geographically it's a Jordanian river. Once when we were there, somebody said, many say this is the river reference. Wallahu a'lam. So they came to water, and Talut was the ruler. And Dawud alayhi salam or any Nabi at that time was given revelation, and that was then communicated to Talut, and he passed it on to the nation. Because of course Talut was not a Nabi. فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتُ بِالْجُنُودِ قَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مُبْتَلِيكُمْ بِنَهَرٍ فَمَنْ شَرِبَ مِنْهُ فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي ومن لم يطعمه فإنه مني إلا من اغترف غرفة بيده. So Talut said to the people, listen, Allah is going to examine you. We're going to cross water. They all were thirsty. And Allah doesn't want you to drink this water. However, a reasonable amount, just basic in your palm, that much is allowed and excused. If you drink that little bit here, you just scoop it with your palm, that's in order. But if you drink more than that, then you're not part of me. They all were thirsty, the water was there, Allah tested. This life is a place of test. You know, my brother, I often say, everybody is searching for instant happiness. And people are depressed and frustrated trying to have the best of holidays, going to the most exotic locations, wearing the most fine clothing, but nobody is finding happiness. इंसान घर बदलता है, गाड़ी बदलता है, गली बदलता है, फिर भी परेशान क्यों रहता है? क्योंकि खुद नहीं बदलता. You change your house, you change your watch, you change your car, but you're still depressed because you didn't change yourself. But here I give you the formula of happiness. Reflect. The world tells you indulge, immerse, enjoy, party, you'll get more happy. But on the reverse, I give you an analogy which would relate to each one of us. Throughout the year we indulge. We have the most lavish of meals and the most lavish of spreads. Let's be frank, honest and candid. We never feel excited. But what really excites us? Ramadan. What's the answer to happiness? Deprivation. Starve the whole day, and it's the only month in 12 months that every day at the time of supper you're happy. Now I'm giving you a real example. I ask you, we dine in the most fine restaurants, in the most opulent restaurants. It never thrills us. But in Ramadan, from a child to an adult, for 30 days, everybody is excited. What's the formula to happiness? Deprivation. Deprive the snuffs. Limit it, regulate it, control it. The Noon Misri said, مَا شَبِعَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا هَمَّ بِمَعْصِيَةٍ. Whenever the belly is satiated, it starts whispering vice. Whenever the belly is satiated and you overeat, somebody came to Abdullah bin Umar and he gave him jawarish. Jawarish were digestive herbs. So he said, what's this? He said, these are herbs if you overeat. He said, I've never eaten to my fill. Where am I going to overeat? Give it to those who eat extra. I've never eaten to my fill, leave alone overeat. But here's a perfect example. Think of it. From a child to an adult, everybody is excited. What's the answer? Stay away. Look at our lives. I was giving a talk the other day. My mind is digressing here objectively. There were 10 fitna, but I don't think we're going to cross the first one. But anyway, whatever it is, it happens all the time. The aim is to put into action. The aim is not to complete the points, to go back with a point form and then, you know what, I've got this here, or I've studied this, or I heard this. The aim is to stimulate action. If it's stimulating action, we win it. We win it, my brother. I come from a generation, and probably many others, mid-40s, I'm not going to give you my exact age. When I got married, there was no house, no home. And with the grace of Allah, passage, tolerance, perseverance, Allah made it possible. You bought a house and made a home. The average child today gets married where a house is furnished and they are asked to make a home, and that too has become very difficult. When I look at my life and I look at the life of my parents, the disparity is definitely there. When I see the old folks and I see my beloved parents, and may Allah preserve them with goodness, I just admire. I mentioned this and I'm not here to trumpet, but it is a rich thing of my dad and I share it. It was probably 2 years ago my dad called me and my siblings and he said to us, my children, I'm sharing a secret with you people. And I said, Papa, talk to us, tell us. And he said, I'm only sharing it because I want to motivate you. He said, with the grace of Allah, today marks 40 years in which I have not missed the Tahajjud Salah one night. Wallah, I'm in the house of Allah. Ote mahroom ta'aleem se, magar mujhko parhaya, पसीना हद से बढ़कर भी मेरी खातिर बहाया करा रहता हूँ शाहों में जो अपना सर उठाकर मेरे वालिद ने मुझे आज इस काबिल बनाया है वो ते महरूम तालीम से. Our parents might have not been educated, but they gave us the best of value systems. पसीना हद से बढ़कर भी मेरी खातिर बहाया है. He toiled and labored, my mom toiled and labored so that we can have a good life and we can stand tall in society. Today I can rub shoulders with the poor and the elite is because of the value system of my parents. करा रहता हूँ शाहों में जो अपना सर उठाकर मेरे वालिद ने मुझे आज इस काबिल बनाया है. And then he went on to say, he said, I enjoyed the 40 years of Tahajjud, but by Allah, helping a poor person made me feel closer to Allah than my 40 years of Tahajjud. And he also shared another secret. He said, my children, I've reached the 80-year mark in my life. I'm telling you, the secret to happiness is to make others happy. My children, I've reached the 80-year mark in my life. The cause of depression is when you're waiting for others to make you happy. He didn't appreciate me, she didn't acknowledge me, he didn't compliment me. That is why I'm depressed. If you're out to make people happy, oh my son, there are two types of people, the giver and the taker. The taker eats better, the giver sleeps better. Oh my children, there are two types of people. Ya Rasulallah, khudh min amwalina ma shi'ta, wa ma akhadhta minna kana habba ilayna mimma tarak. Oh Nabi of Allah, take what you want and leave what you want. We celebrate what you take, we mourn and lament what you leave behind. Ya Allah, what was I saying before that? Somebody. Sorry? Anyway. No, prior to that I was saying something. Sorry? No, I think it was prior to that kind of interjected in between. Anyway. So the point I was saying is that the only way to happiness for the soul is obedience to Allah. There's no other way to it. That's the chain, that's the peace, that's the sukoon, that's the tranquility Allah has kept in it. In any other way, there's nothing but restlessness and anxiety. Soul is just restless, miserable, depressed, anxious, frustrated, agitated. You see it. Deprivation is the answer to happiness. The entire month of Ramadan, you discipline the body. And every day you're excited to eat. And I say this as well. We sometimes make a child fast. And then when he wants to break the fast at the evening, then what do we say to him? Just wait. No, it's Maghrib. No, it's Maghrib. And the child runs a little bit and he comes back and he's like, oh, your people's Maghrib is taking so long. And what we say, just get busy and before you realize it's Maghrib. And wallah, Allah is telling us, now is Jannah. Now is Akhirat. Just behave in this world. Behave. فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتَ, that's what we were talking about. They came to the water. They were told, don't drink. فَشَرِبُوا مِنْهُ. They drank. They couldn't manage. They couldn't resist. Go see, when you try to process the drug he took, the incest he committed, the abuse he perpetrated, the murders he did, the suicide, you cannot rationalize how does a human do these things. But it's just the nature of sin. From one, it takes you to another, to another, to another. So, this is it, my brother. When you do good, then even you don't anticipate you will end up doing so much good. But it's the baby step you took and then Allah allows you to go more and more. The person who started taking the drugs that he's taking now, even he didn't assume I'm a functional addict. I take in moderation, I can function, it enhances my IQ. I was reading now the other day of Hakimul Ummah. Some people want to argue and say, no, you know what, I have to take these benefits in it. It doesn't mean if something is haram, it cannot be beneficial. Something can be haram and it's beneficial. Allah Himself admits in the Quran that alcohol has benefits, gambling has benefits, but its harm is more, so it's haram. Allah doesn't shy away from the fact that there are benefits. But the truth is, the harm is far more. You look at the industry that generated, or the revenue generated from the alcohol industry and then look at the spin-off side effects. Road rage, abuse, accidents, carnage, divorces and the rest of it, the consequences and the repercussions far more surpass the revenue it generates. But like my dad says, we are a nation so addicted that the tobacco industry can boldly print the harm of cigarettes, yet not fear a drop in sales. So the gentleman walks in, sir, can I have a pack of cigarettes? Which one? The one that causes cancer. So legally they have to advertise that it causes cancer, so you cover your back. But generally that's an anti-advert. Nobody puts that. You have to put that in fine print, but this is in bold print. But we've become so addicted that you can see it, read it, understand it, yet take it. So what's the answer to happiness, my brother? The answer to happiness is deprivation. Restrain your gaze and come home and be intimate with your spouse, and every day would be a new bride. That would be the happiness, the joy, the muhabba Allah will give you. The peace, the tranquility. But if you don't restrain your gaze, I'm afraid even in the very beginning of your marriage, there will be no happiness. The answer is like in Ramadan. Deprivation brought happiness. Apply that. Discipline yourself, you'll enjoy it. So they drank from the water, and then what happened? فَشَرِبُوا مِنْهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِنْهُمْ. Only few of them did not drink. Now listen to this, just mentioned in the Asha of Tafsir Uthmani. Those who drank little in moderation, their thirst was quenched. Those who drank excessively, their thirst was aggravated. I read an article of an Oxford professor who speaks about nappiness / happiness. I read the article myself. So he says, if you take a nap at midday, in Arabic we refer to it as qaylula. In Jalalain it is written al-istiraha waqt al-dhahira wa illam yakun ma'ahu nawmun. That siesta means midday resting, even if you don't sleep. You don't sleep. ये नींद भी गजब की चीज है. आ जाए तो कुछ चीजें बुला देती है, और ना आए तो कुछ चीजें याद दिला देती है. ये नींद भी गजब की चीज है. आ जाए तो कुछ चीजें बुला देती है, और ना आए तो कुछ चीजें याद दिला देती है. Sleep is also strange. When you get it, it helps you to forget some things. And when you cannot sleep, then unfortunately you start thinking a lot of things. Insomnia is a real condition that has paralyzed the world. May Allah make it easy for one and all. فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتُ بِالْجُنُودِ قَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مُبْتَلِيكُمْ بِنَهَرٍ. The point I'm driving, the message I'm emphasizing, the thing I'm impressing is that if you deprive yourself, you'll see happiness. So this author, this professor writes that if you sleep at midday, now I'll give you an ayah. You know, the more I read Quran, I cannot tell you, I've said it to my, I cannot tell you the ecstasy I get. Wallahi, and I'm a sinner of note. I'm the most fallible creature. But the Quran's, la ilaha, I don't even have the words. Wallahu a'lamu bil asrar al-muda'a fi kitabihi wa ma 'alimna fi 'ilmihi illa ka qatratin min al-bihar bal ka rashhatin min al-qatri. Hakim al-Ummah writes somewhere there. The knowledge of Allah, it's an insult to even, we don't even know the letters of the Quran. We don't even know we know nothing. But I give you a context. I'm giving you a formula. I said we want happiness. What's that? Deprive yourself, limit yourself. And that's what Islam is all about. Islam is beautiful. It doesn't come to deny you your needs, it regulates it. So celibacy is not part of Islam. What they say in English, marriage might have thorns, but celibacy has no roses. Marriage has thorns in it. For a happy marriage, it's not only about being 50-50, it's also being thrifty-thrifty. The secret to a happy marriage is not to wed the perfect partner, but to love the imperfect partner perfectly well. These things sound nice. 28 years married, my brother. I love talking on marriage when my wife and children are not present. That's a topic I love when I'm outside the country. If there's a topic I love to speak on, I can change gears here for you. And we can go with this topic here on marriage. But honestly, a happy home is early paradise. A happy home, a faithful home, is early paradise. Golfers say that golf is the new cycling. I'm saying a happy home is early paradise. And discipline. Discipline is indulgence, is misery. Discipline is bliss. Limit yourself. Learn to restrain yourself. This is what the whole beauty is about the deen. That you could be in a place where people are doing wrong, you limit yourself. This is what Allah has. You know that beauty of, like I've said it often, because every Ramadan we fly in and you lift the shutter and you're peeping out from the flight to see has the sun tipped. And then finally you see it's just about to tip. And then you raise your hands. And probably on board there's nobody else fasting. Wallahi, that excitement and that spirituality as you're observing the sun tipping and the tear trickling and the voice cracked and the lips parched and you are opening that fast, I swear by Allah that feeling is priceless. You can eat the whole day and you can join me for iftar. But you can't have the excitement of iftar unless you stay hungry the whole day. You can only enjoy your wife if you restrain your gaze. You can only enjoy halal if you stay away from haram. You can only enjoy fajr if you sleep early. Your happiness made you suicidal. My happiness didn't make me suicidal. So decide which one is flawed and which one is real. Your drug gave you a thrill. Why are you suicidal? So what does the professor say? The article says if you sleep for 20 minutes, you'll be productive for the rest of the day. And you'll be much more productive compared to people who don't sleep. That's logical. We all know that. You break it, midday, you have that sleep. Allah rejuvenates you, gives you that strength. Sleep in the battle is from Allah. Sleep in salah is from shaitan. Al-nu'asu fil qitali min Allah. The Sahaba, Allah gave them sleep in the battle. What? Battle and sleep? What are you talking? Yes. I often say Sahaba slept more peaceful in the battle than we sleep in hotels. They were more happy in their pain than we are in our health. And they thought of death more in their weddings than we think of it in our funerals. Sahaba were more conscious of death in their weddings than we are in our funerals. It's an appalling state how people behave at funerals today. You see people lighting a cigarette at the grave. Hang on, my brother, I don't want to get into your space. But wallah, if you cannot get a jolt when you're standing at the side of the grave, where ultimately we heading, then I'm afraid the janaza of your heart has left. وَلَوْ أَنَّنَا نَزَّلْنَا إِلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةَ وَكَلَّمَهُمُ الْمَوْتَى وَحَشَرْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ قُبُلًا مَا كَانُوا لِيُؤْمِنُوا. Allah spoke of the infidels of Makkah. Today you see this. Allah says their heart has died. To read the opening verses of the 8 Juz. وَلَوْ أَنَّنَا نَزَّلْنَا إِلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةَ. If we send down the angels, وَكَلَّمَهُمُ الْمَوْتَى, and the dead man stands up from his grave, وَحَشَرْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ قُبُلًا, and we put paradise and hell before them, مَا كَانُوا لِيُؤْمِنُوا, they still won't open their eyes and accept Iman. In fact, Allah says, وَلَوْ فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَابًا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ, if we open up a door of the skies, فَضَلُّوا فِيهِ يَعْرُجُونَ, and they ascended. Again, the scholars are here, you'll appreciate it. I used to alert my students to these points. Allah used the word dhalla. Allah didn't use the word bata. Dhalla means to do in the day. Bata means to do by night. They ascend the heavens in the day where you can see everything clear. And they go up and they see it. Their hearts are so deviated, so dark, so blocked. لَقَالُوا إِنَّمَا سُكِّرَتْ أَبْصَارُنَا بَلْ نَحْنُ قَوْمٌ مَسْحُورُونَ. They will say, someone has cast a spell on our eyes. We're seeing things that don't exist. May Allah protect us. May Allah protect us. My brother, my sister, the answer to happiness is discipline. The more we indulge, the more miserable we are. I was saying, our generation, today's generation, look at the difference. When I look at my parents, there's a gap between us. I admire my dad when I see this, wow. When I look at my mom, one of her salient qualities that stands out for me, regardless of what happens in her life, there's one value of hers. You never ever think negative of Allah. Regardless. You could be in pain and agony, but your lips, your heart, your mind is only thinking positive of your Creator. Those were the value system. Those how strong they were. Came down to us, you see there's a drop. I don't have that strength. My threshold of tolerance is not of that. Then I see myself, yourself, and the generation that came after us. I'm afraid the gap between myself and my children, the disparity is far wider than the disparity between me and my parents. What went wrong in the last 20 years? Let's go to the drawing board and ask ourselves tough questions. What happened to this generation? You know what's the problem, my brother? We didn't allow them to grow naturally, and we didn't allow them to feel the challenges. Every time we intervened and rescued and salvaged the situation, so we pampered and mollycoddled them, and inadvertently we gave rise to monsters. Allah speaks about His favors. Allah speaks about His favors on Musa alayhi salam in chapter 20 Surah Taha. I'll come back to the professor in the sleep and then I'll start wrapping up because it's a lot of time now. Allah speaks of His favors on Musa alayhi salam. When Musa alayhi salam went to Fir'aun to give dawah, then he said, can my brother Harun come? And he came with it. And Allah said, Musa, I did this for you, I did this for you, I did this for you, I did this for you. قال قد أوتيت سؤلك يا موسى ولقد مننا عليك مرة أخرى إذ أوحينا إلى أمك ما يوحى. Oh Musa, I favored you when I inspired your mom and I told her to put you in the basket, to put the basket in the river Nile, and then the water took you to the shore and took you to the side. हजार बरक गिरे लाख आंधिया उठे, हजार बरक गिरे लाख आंधिया उठे, वो फूल खिल के रहेंगे जो खिलने वाले हैं, जो तूफानों में पलते जा रहे हैं वही दुनिया बदलते जा रहे हैं। लोग कहते हैं जमाना बदलता है सबको, मर्द वो है जो जमाने को बदल देवे। अहले दिल वो नहीं है कि जमाने इनको बदल दे। साहिल के सुकून से किसे इनकार है, लेकिन तूफान से लड़ने में मजा और ही कुछ है। साहिल के सुकून से किसे इनकार है, लेकिन तूफान से लड़ने में मजा और ही कुछ है। ये कह के दिल ने मेरे हौसले बढ़ाए हैं, गमों की धूप के आगे खुशी के साये हैं। जो तूफानों में पलते जा रहे हैं वही दुनिया बदलते जा रहे हैं। Those who are nurtured in turbulent waters, they reshaping the world. साहिल के सुकून से किसे इनकार है? Who can argue the calmness and the serenity of the shore? लेकिन तूफान से लड़ने में मजा और ही कुछ है। But when you grow up rough and tough, then you have respect, values and morals. Then you have respect, value and morals. Then you know how to greet, you know how to thank, you know how to appreciate. But when you grow up only soft, then I'm afraid every time you defend in your child, tomorrow you hire a lawyer to defend him also. So then unfortunately, those stray shrubs in that juvenile delinquency that you didn't prune, and they grow up to become monsters. In Canada I was there, someone told me about an incident. They decided somebody was getting married, so now you've got to be exotic. So it needs to be something different. So no, we will solemnize the marriage in a hot air balloon. Love in the air. The weather was bad. Now hot air balloon is very weather dependent. I went for hot air balloon when we were in East Africa. I was on a lecture tour, and then we went to the Masai Mara because I'm into wildlife and I have an eye for safari. So we went to see the great migration of the wild beasts. And we had a hot air balloon, and early morning it takes off and it glides, and then you have this bird's eye panoramic view, and it's amazing. The weather was bad, so they couldn't have the hot air balloon. The girl committed suicide. Committed suicide. But like God, you knew we're getting married. साहिल के सुकून से किसे इनकार है, लेकिन तूफान से लड़ने में मजा और ही कुछ है। Oh my Sahaba in Uhud, I put you to challenges. فأثابكم غما بغم فأثابكم غما بغم أي غما مضاعفا مدارك التنزيل لكي لا تحزنوا أي لتتمرنوا. I put you through so much setback, rumor of the assassination of the Prophet ﷺ, the loss of Hamza. You had to deal with so much that it made you so strong and resilient that going forward in life, nothing would toll upon you because of your strength. That's how strong you became. So Allah is telling Sayyidina Musa, we did this for you, we did this for you. Your mother put you in the basket in the river Nile, the water went to the shore. وَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا. Then you claimed the life of one soul, innocently, inadvertently. You was trying to help someone. Then you were gripped with so much grief. The grief that they will apprehend you, the grief that they will intercept you. فَنَجَّيْنَاكَ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. We granted you deliverance by sending you away from here. Allah is magnifying, enumerating, highlighting all the favors. I'm going to wrap up now, inshallah. I normally tell people I commence my descent. Sometimes when you commence also it takes 1 hour to touch. لقد بدت الطائرة بالهبوط التدريجي. لقد بدت الطائرة بالهبوط التدريجي. حيث التوقيت المحلي. No, but I need to stop because we need to digest it. We need to process it. You know, I've said it in my talks. There are, in the last 25 odd years that Allah has allowed me to speak, the thing that really, really kills me is after a 2-hour talk, a brother comes to me and says, Shaykh, but that talk was amazing. Please give me some advice. Wallahi, I experienced this. The only time I don't is in the talk in which I say it, then nobody asks me. Like today. Like obviously today someone probably in jest will come to me and say, give me advice. But like today I know I'm not going to get that because I said it now. I was in a neighboring Africa, I spoke for 2.5 hours. A youngster crying, Wallahi, you were speaking to my heart, man. Please give me some advice. What do I say to you? May Allah have mercy on you. May Allah have mercy on you. May Allah have mercy on you. Somebody said to Abu Hazim, we really enjoy your advices. Zidna min maw'ibati. Just give us more advices. He said, in kunta min ahli al-istijaba, faqad qultu laka ma fihi al-kifaya. If you are a person who listens, then adequate has been conveyed. Wa in lam takun min ahli al-istijaba. And if you are not a person who listens, then why must I keep on releasing my arrow when I'm not hitting target? Why must I keep on releasing and empty my quiver? آخر سهم في كنانة الملوك. Why must I empty my quiver when I'm not hitting target? So let's start our descent and wrap up and have an action. Happiness lies in discipline. Allah has chalked it out. The Allah who created you, He legislated. It's not two separate. So Allah's deen is designed according to your anatomy. Allah has designed it correctly. A person came to Hakim al-Ummah, he said, I cannot get up for Fajr. He said, no, you can. He said, no, I'm telling you I cannot. He said, I'm telling you you can. He said, but I'm telling you, he said, I'm telling you you can. So what's your proof? He said, if you couldn't, Allah wouldn't make it for us on you. Allah knows you. Your mother knows your ability. My son, you want to eat something? No. What the mother said, you'll see in half an hour you'll be hungry. In half an hour, what you doing? No, I'm just here in the kitchen, I'm just looking for something here. No, there's some noodles or something. My friend is hungry. My friend is hungry. A mother knows her child. Allah doesn't know His creation. Allah has legislated it. Deen is beautiful. It's perfect. Implement it. You don't have to make it shine. Islam has its own shine. Undo the dust you put on it. You don't have to put a sparkle on it. You don't have to put glitter on it. It's got its own. So Allah is telling Musa alayhi salam, I did this for you. And then what does Allah say? وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونَا. And oh Musa, I tested you in many ways. The scholars raised the question here. The entire discussion is of bounties. And then Allah concludes the bounties by saying, I tested you. Is this not part of the bounties? They say, no, this is part of the bounty. That the test that Allah put on Musa, this was the process of nurturing that akhlaq and that character and taking Sayyidina Musa to that great level and pedestal. So Allah magnifies the test. We come from a generation, there were tough days, there were hard days, there were challenging days, there were days of budget. Today anything happens, you just rescue. I still remember early years, I was still studying and I had traveled to Australia. It was probably 93, 94. Those days you had the coupons, it was not electronic, networks were not there, phones were not there. And I was coming back, it was my first year of travel, I was still studying, excited, conducted Taraweeh, given to courses as a young lad, and landed in Malaysia. And the flight was at 1 o'clock. Still a young boy, still, you know what, no sense of maturity, and I cannot claim anything. But I didn't realize 1 means 1 a.m. I'm like, 1 means in the afternoon. So I get up in the morning, and 10 o'clock, I go to the airport, and sorry, my boy, 1 o'clock is 1 a.m. I said, no, but it's 1, this is 1 a.m., 1300 hours in the afternoon. Ooh. Today, if your son is stranded, you phone in the agent, hey, just put my boy on the flight. Just put him down immediately, just get him out of here, we'll sort out. Book him a one-way. Wallah, I spent 3 days there as a child, 17-year-old. I couldn't come back, there was no excess funds, I couldn't go to Australia, there was no connecting flights, I couldn't find anyone, I didn't have surplus money to stay in a hotel. I worked my way around, found some brother who was from South India. Subsequently, I visited many times and had conferences there. But I'm saying later in your years, and I'm sure each one of you has stories of your life, these were the moments that make you, they shape you, they discipline you. 3 days, the whole of Eid, I just cried as a child. As a young man, I just cried. I just sat there in this man's house, gave him something. He was from South India. We had a communication issue. He spoke Telugu. I could speak, Urdu, Arabic, English, bit of Afrikaans, no communication. He was living alone, broken. Eat, yeah. You come, yeah, take. Me, no petrol. Me, give. Eid day, we went to the zoo. I'm saying we all went through these days, but these days shaped us. There was nobody that could come and rescue. Today, anything happens, we intervene. We just rescue. We take them out of it. We just salvage it. So we weakening the generation more and more and more. And that's the problem. Sometimes stand at a distance and leave them. Leave them. Coming back to that incident, and I'll tie it up with the verse of the Quran and conclude. The author of the article writes, if you sleep for 20 minutes, you'll be productive. And he says, if you sleep for more than 20 minutes at midday, then research says it becomes counterproductive. You become more lethargic than those who don't sleep at all. Wow. If you sleep for 20 minutes, you have a break, a nap, right? A power nap. It gives you that strength, and you know what? It energizes you. But if you sleep beyond that, 45 minutes, whatever, it becomes counterproductive. Now, Allah speaks in Surah Al-Rum. Allah says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ مَنَامُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَابْتِغَاؤُكُمْ مِنْ فَضْلِ. And amongst the favors of Allah upon you is sleeping by day and sleeping by night. In the Ashar of Jalalain it is written, وَالنَّوْمُ بِالنَّهَارِ مِمَّا عَوَّدَتْهُ الْعَرَبِ. Sleeping at day was a common practice amongst the Arab. In Bayan al-Quran it's written under this ayah, دَلَّ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ النَّوْمِ لِلْإِسْتِرَاحَةِ وَكَذَا طَلَبُ الْمَعَاشِ مِنَ الْأَسْبَابِ لَا يُنَافِي الْكَمَالِ فإنما هو من مننه تعالى كيف يكون منافيا للكمال وإنما ينهى الانهماك فيهما. Allah says sleep is a bounty. Allah says working is a bounty. Allah is saying, I've been so kind to you, I made you sleep. I'm so kind to you, I allowed you to work. And Allah speaks of traveling in the water. I was in Panama and we went to go see the great, the canal there. And you see this massive vessel which had tons and tons of it. And Allah speaks about وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ الْجَوَارِ فِي الْبَحْرِ كَالْأَعْلَامِ. These vessels are like mountains that are on the back of water. إِنْ يَشَأْ يُسْكِنِ الرِّيحَ فَيَضْلَلْنَ. Like, how can the Quran not be divine? Wallah, how can it? Allah is my witness. How many times when I'm driving, I just scream and I just read my kalima and I thank Allah. Allah, how do I begin to thank you for Iman? So your sleep is a bounty, your working is a bounty. And this is not contrary to enjoyment because Allah is saying it. Yes, the qualifying statement is وَإِنَّمَا يُنَذِزِ بَيَانُ الْقُرْآنِ يُنْهَا الْإِنْهِمَاكُ فِيهِمَا. Sleep in moderation, work in moderation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all a clean heart, a pure heart. May Allah save us from the temptations and the deceptions and the delusions of the nafs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the correct balance, the correct balance. Life is all about striking balance. Don't bite at the bait of temptation unless you know what is dangling beneath it. Don't bite at the bait of temptation. It's a rod that has been cast and there's a bait that's dangling. And today the net is full of those baits. It's just been thrown out, and you just logging on, and you clicking on, and it is a bait there, and you biting on, and next best thing, you've signed up, you hooked up, you addicted, and it has ripple effects. Don't bite on the bait of temptation unless you know what is dangling beneath it. May Allah grant us that control, that discipline, so that we can enjoy this dunya as well, and ultimately akhirah as well, inshaAllah. May Allah make us from those that enjoy the neighborhood of Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Oh Allah, we ask to you and we implore you and we beseech you, as your servant Amir bin Abdullah Tamimi had said to you, إلهي إنك تعلم لو كانت لي الدنيا بما فيها ثم طلبت مني مرضاة لك لوهبتها لطالبها فهب لي نفسي يا أرحم الراحمين. Oh Allah, grant us control over this nafs, oh Allah. Allah, as you have said, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَىٰ. The one who fears the interview with you and restrains his soul from indulging in the forbidden, then paradise is his abode. Allah, make us from amongst those people. Allah, make us from amongst those that you have said, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. The one who fears standing before you, for him are two gardens, O Allah. Make us from amongst those people, O Allah. Make us amongst those people. فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ. The one who's rescued from the fire and granted entry into paradise, then surely he is successful. Oh Allah, save us from the flames of hell, my Allah. Save us from narun ahata suradiquha, from that flames and that intensity of Jahannam, oh Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you, grant us that correct understanding, grant us that correct taqwa that becomes a blockage between us and sin, oh Allah. Allahumma qsim lana min khashyatik ما تحول به بيننا وبين معصيتك. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معصيتك. Oh Allah, like Muhammad bin Sirin said, إذا أراد الله بعبد خيرا جعل له واعظا من قلبه يأمره وينهاه. That when you intend goodness for a person, then his heart will send him distress signals when he intends evil. Allah, you save us. Sarah was your servant. When out of taqwa, oh Allah, in her piety, and the king made a lustful advancement towards her, his hand became paralyzed, Allah. His hand became paralyzed. She was so modest, she was so bashful, she was so chaste, oh Allah. She made dua to you, oh Allah. And you made the hand of that man paralyzed who made lustful advancements towards her, oh Allah. And you protected her, oh Allah. Oh Allah, you save our hands from roaming towards haram, oh Allah. Oh Allah, save our gaze from roaming towards haram, Allah. Allah, too many years of our life has gone. تمر ساعات أيامي بلا ندم ولا خوف ولا بكاء ولا حزن. أنا الذي يغلق الأبواب مجتهدا على المعاصي وعين الله تنظرني. Allah, at this moment, the youth that are in the clubs and the pubs, that are in raves and parties, oh Allah, Allah, you grant them deliverance, and Allah, you free them from that place, oh Allah. Allah, take them out of the fake ecstasy of drugs and give us all the wholesome ecstasy of ibadat, oh Allah. Allah, take them away from the haram alcohol, Allah, and grant them, oh Allah, the sweetness of sajda and prostration, oh Allah. Allah, take us and take them away from the fake pleasure of music and grant us the sweetness of dhikr and Quran, oh Allah. Allah, make us like Imam Shafi'i said, فَصِيحًا إِذَا مَا كَانَ فِي ذِكْرِ رَبِّهِ وَفِي مَا سِوَاهُ فِي الْوَرَى كَانَ أَعْجَمًا. That we can talk to you for hours, and talking to you our tongues can flow, and we can converse and we can communicate with you, oh Allah. And in things of this world, we are people of limited speech. Oh Allah, grant us that munajat with you. Grant us that sweetness of communication, oh Allah. Oh Allah, those of our brothers and sisters whose marriages are going through turbulence, you grant them muhabba and understanding, oh Allah. Those who have lost their income, oh Allah, grant them halal income. Those who have lost their relatives in the near or the distant past, oh Allah, You grant them a lofty abode in Jannah, O Allah. O Allah, you make it easy for the world on a global level, O Allah. Make us good humans, make us good citizens, make us good people, O Allah. O Allah, the non-Muslim doesn't read Quran, he doesn't read Hadith, he reads us, Allah. Make us a good read to Islam, Allah. Make us a good read, Allah, because he interacts with us. His understanding of Quran is us. The neighbor's understanding of Quran is us, Allah. Make us ambassadors to the deen, Allah. Save us from being obstacles to the deen, Allah. Grant us a clean heart, O Allah. Save us from all this resentment and rancor and pride and arrogance and antagonism, O Allah. O Allah, save us from this greed, O Allah, over the things of this world. Grant us contentment. Allahumma tayyib lana kasbana wa qanni'na bima razaqtana. Allah, there are hundreds that have gathered here, brothers and sisters. And there are so many listening and viewing, Allah. You know their needs better than I can express it, Allah. You have said in the Quran, يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. You know the secrets and you know that which is more hidden than the secret. مَا يَكُونُ مِن نَجْوَى ثَلَاثَةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ رَابِعُهُمْ وَلَا خَمْسَةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ سَادِسُهُمْ. Whether it's a gathering of 2 or 3, it is known to you, O Allah. يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Nothing is hidden from you, O Allah. أَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ أَوْ اجْهَرُوا بِهِ. Whether they whisper or they scream, you can listen to it, O Allah. رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ تَعْلَمُ مَا نُخْفِي وَمَا نُعْلِنُ. رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ تَعْلَمُ مَا نُخْفِي وَمَا نُعْلِنُ. وَمَا يَخْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. Allah, whether we scream or whisper, it is known to you. You know their needs better than I can articulate it, O Allah. Allah, you have told us in the Quran, إِنَّ هَذَا لَرِزْقُنَا مَا لَهُ مِن نَفَادٍ. إِنَّ هَذَا لَرِزْقُنَا مَا لَهُ مِن نَفَادٍ. Your treasures are limitless. Your treasures are infinite. Your treasures are inexhaustible. Allah, you have told us, إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا إِذَا أَرَادَ أَمْرًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. Your intention is existence. Your intention is existence. أَلَا لَهُ الْخَلْقُ وَالْأَمْرُ. تَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Decree is yours. Power is yours. رَبُّكَ يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ. Choice is yours. Authority is yours. وَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ لَا مُعَقِّبَ لِحُكْمِهِ. Allah, you told us in the Quran, you override everyone's decision. Nobody overrides your decision. Allah, you told us, لَا يُسْأَلُ عَمَّا يَفْعَلُ وَهُمْ يُسْأَلُونَ. We will be interrogated, but nobody can challenge you, Allah. Allah, we ask you through your might and your power and your qudra, أقبل بقلوبنا إلى طاعتك. أقبل بقلوبنا إلى طاعتك. أقبل بقلوبنا إلى طاعتك. أقبل بقلوبنا إلى طاعتك. خذ بنواصينا إلى البر والتقوى. خذ بنواصينا إلى البر والتقوى. Hold us by our forelock and take us to your obedience. Align our hearts. Allah, we take our car because it loses alignment. Allah, our hearts have lost alignment, oh Allah. Our hearts need balancing also. They need alignment also. Our axle is gone, oh Allah. Align our hearts towards you, oh Allah. Align our hearts towards you, oh Allah. Grant us peace and contentment in your obedience, Allah. The night is gone too long, oh Allah. There's thunder and lightning. There's thunderbolts, oh Allah. It is gone so scary, oh Allah. There's attacks on our iman in every way, Allah. There's fights, there's arguments, there's feud, there's so much happening. Allah, we turn to you, oh Allah. We ask you, لا تطردنا عن بابك فإنك إن طردتنا فلا حول لنا ولا قوة إلا بك. Oh Allah, you are our only hope, oh Allah. Grant us peace. Grant us deliverance from our crimes. Those that are addicted to porn, Allah, free them from it. Those that are indulging in promiscuity, free them from it. Those that are taking drugs, creating their heart the dislike of drugs, oh Allah. Allah, those that are listening to music, creating their hearts the dislike of music. Those that are guilty of gambling, free them from gambling, oh Allah. Allah, those that are involved in any form of haram, save them and save us, oh Allah. رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِأَخِي وَأَدْخِلْنَا فِي رَحْمَتِكَ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من كل شر ما استعاذك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. أنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.